Welcome back to The Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're here today because we are diving into a massive historical pivot point for the global auto industry. We're talking about the year 2027. Now, if you think the automotive landscape has shifted a lot lately, well, you haven't seen anything yet. 2027 is shaping up to be this ultimate crossroads. It's a moment where geopolitics, wild economic pressures, and literally sci-fi levels of tech are all going to crash into your driveway at the exact same time.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because in 2027, the global auto industry effectively fractures. Depending on where you live and honestly what you can afford, the vehicles hitting the asphalt are going to look, feel, and operate completely differently than they do right now. So, will your next car be a 1,000-horsepower quad-motor electric rocket, or will you be driving this rugged, gas-sipping hybrid with a dashboard made entirely out of recycled tequila plants? I know it sounds like science fiction, but as we're going to see, this is entirely factual and it's arriving in just a few short years.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The global regulatory divide. 2. Consumer credit and economics. 3. The solid-state battery race. 4. Software and sustainable materials. And finally, 5. The 2027 vehicle lineup.
Section 1. The global regulatory divide. A tale of two markets.
Right now, for automakers, the map is completely split by conflicting government rules, which is turning the 2027 model year into a literal tale of two markets. Global manufacturers are being forced to manage entirely separate engineering and compliance pathways. There is a very stark divergence happening. On one side, you've got the US, which has proposed delaying its strict EPA Tier 4 standards from 2027 all the way out to 2029. Because consumer EV adoption was a bit slower than expected, the US is giving automakers some financial breathing room. This deregulation is actually projected to save automakers roughly $1.7 billion, which allows companies like Ford and GM to pivot their capital back toward highly profitable internal combustion engines and hybrids. But in sharp contrast, the European Union is pushing full steam ahead. By 2027, their Euro 7 standard becomes fully mandatory for all newly registered light-duty vehicles. And get this, they aren't just looking at the tailpipe anymore. Euro 7 introduces the world's very first limits on brake dust particulates and tire microplastics. Plus, the EU is mandating digital battery passports by February 2027. That means a QR code on every single EV battery that actively tracks its carbon footprint, its state of health, and exactly where its raw materials came from.
Section 2. Consumer credit and economics, the affordability squeeze.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that these automakers aren't just fighting shifting regulations. They are dealing with massive macroeconomic headwinds that are directly hitting consumer wallets. Just let this number sink in for a second. $49,758. That is the current industry average transaction price for a new vehicle. Now, sure, it's slightly below that $50,000 peak we saw recently, but cars are still incredibly expensive to build. Add to that the geopolitical friction pushing 10-year U.S. Treasury yields toward 4.56%, and buyers are feeling immense, undeniable pressure the second they step onto a dealership lot. And you can really see that pressure when you look at active auto loans. A record 31.1% of them now exceed 72 months. People are stretching their loan terms out to 6, sometimes 7 years just to stomach the monthly payment. At the exact same time, consumer negative equity is up 2.2%. Buyers are underwater, and that forces them to actively hunt for cheaper entry-level vehicles just to stay afloat. So automakers are currently scrambling to adjust their 2027 lineups to meet this demand for affordability, but of course without sacrificing their profit margins.
Section 3. The solid-state battery race, the holy grail of EVs.
To solve those exact range and cost issues we just talked about, automakers are looking to completely revolutionize battery chemistry. Honestly, if you take anything away from this explainer regarding EV tech, let it be the all-solid-state battery, or ASSB. Traditional lithium-ion batteries use a liquid electrolyte, which is heavy, takes up a ton of space, and poses a flammability risk. ASSBs replace that liquid with a solid material. And guys, this is a total game changer. It effectively doubles the energy density within the exact same physical footprint. We're talking about vastly lighter cars, massive range capabilities, and essentially the absolute elimination of range anxiety. And the craziest part? We're not talking about some distant decades-away future. Just trace this aggressive timeline. In early 2026, the Japanese oil giant Idemitsu broke ground on a large-scale solid electrolyte pilot plant in partnership with Toyota. By late 2027, that facility will be totally complete. And right after that, between 2027 and 2028, Toyota is set to launch its very first consumer EVs utilizing this tech. They already have prototypes boasting a mind-bending 745-mile range that can recharge in under 10 minutes. Now, because early manufacturing is incredibly complex and expensive, expect to see this debut first in premium Lexus models before it eventually trickles down to the broader market. Section 4. Software and Sustainable Materials, Circular Manufacturing.
But cars aren't just getting new power sources. Their very brains and bodies are undergoing a radical transformation. We are officially entering the era of the software-defined vehicle. You see, today's cars have dozens of heavy, isolated microchips doing all these different, separate jobs. The 2027 shift is all about centralizing that computing power into a single, high-performance brain. This makes over-the-air updates totally seamless, meaning your car can literally learn and improve over its entire lifespan. Artificial intelligence is stepping into optimizing everything from infotainment all the way to powertrain thermal management, actually optimizing 70% of the software and electrical markets. And this centralization, it's exactly what paves the way for cheaper manufacturing. It's the strategy Ford is using for their new universal EV platform, which aims to deliver a $30,000 electric pickup. Add to that, Level 2 advanced driver assistance systems are projected to be in over 52% of all global vehicle sales by the end of the decade.
And the physical materials are changing just as fast. We are seeing a massive shift towards sustainable circular manufacturing, largely driven by those strict EU mandates we covered earlier. Instead of heavy animal hides, we're seeing stuff like piñetex. That's a material made from pineapple leaves that is literally a quarter of the weight of leather. Instead of standard plastics, we have bioplastics. Get this. The liquor brand Jose Cuervo is actively recycling up to 300 tons of leftover agave fibers every single day to help build wiring harnesses and storage bins for cars. No way, right? And structural steel is rapidly being replaced by recycled aluminum, which consumes 90% less energy to produce.
Section 5. The 2027 vehicle lineup. Rubber meets the road.
Okay, so we've covered the geopolitics, the economics, the solid-state batteries, and the agave bioplastics. Now, let's bring it all together and talk about the actual cars hitting the asphalt in 2027 as a result of these massive global shifts. First up, the heavy-hitting EVs taking advantage of those centralized architectures. BMW is launching the all-new 2027 i3 on their ground-up Neue Klasse platform, boasting an incredible 440 miles of range and 463 horsepower. Volvo is rolling out the EX60, packing up to 670 horsepower and 400 miles of range, with battery cells integrated directly into the chassis itself. And Rivian is dropping the R2, an affordable mid-size powerhouse with up to 330 miles of range and direct integration with the Tesla supercharger network.
But remember that US regulatory delay? That little pause is allowing automakers to keep printing money with high-margin gas and hybrid models to fund all this crazy EV research. Toyota is debuting the GR-GT, a gorgeous, slinky, 641 horsepower twin-turbo V8 hybrid supercar with an all-aluminum frame. Chevrolet is bringing a redesigned Silverado half-ton, packing a massive 6.6-liter naturally aspirated V8 and a huge 16.3-inch screen. And Mercedes-Benz is heavily updating the S-Class, giving buyers the choice between a twin-turbo V8 or a super-efficient plug-in hybrid that actually gets 48 miles of pure electric range.
Finally, let's check out a few wildcards that really show how companies are diversifying their bets to win over every single type of consumer out there. BMW's M division is working on the iM3, a rumored 1,000 horsepower electric absolute monster with a motor at every single wheel. Audi is replacing the iconic TT with a stunning $70,000 EV co-developed with Porsche. The classic Scout brand is making a massive return with the Traveler, an electric SUV that uniquely offers an onboard gas generator to completely eliminate range anxiety. And Nissan? They're bringing back the beloved Xterra as a rugged body-on-frame hybrid V6 rock crawler. So we leave you with this final massive question. The industry has reached a true fork in the road here. Which strategy do you think is actually going to win the future? Will it be the US approach, delaying regulations and pivoting back toward highly profitable hybrids and V8s to fund future tech? Or will the European Union's aggressive push for pure electrics, digital battery tracking, and fully circular supply chains completely dictate the global standard? The cars sitting in our driveways in 2027 are gonna hold that answer. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. See you next time.